Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is my favorite form of marketing, direct mail. One of our most effective strategies to find warm inbound leads that has been consistent over the years is through direct mail campaigns. Here are 5 reasons why we love direct mail. Number 1, targeted outreach. Direct mail allows you to target specific demographics, neighborhoods, or property types that align with your investment goals. Whether you're interested in distressed properties, absentee owners, or luxury homes, you can tailor your mailers to reach the right audience, increasing the likelihood of generating quality leads. Number 2, tangible presence. In today's overwhelming digital age, physical mail stands out above a sea of emails and online advertisements. A well-designed postcard or letter can capture the recipient's attention and leave a lasting impression. Additionally, recipients are more likely to keep a physical piece of mail for future reference, providing an ongoing reminder of your services and increasing the chances of a response down the line. Number 3, measurable results. Direct mail campaigns offer clear metrics for tracking success. By monitoring response rates, conversion rates, and ROI, you can evaluate the effectiveness of your campaigns and refine your strategies accordingly. This data-driven approach allows you to optimize your marketing efforts over time, maximizing your investment and increasing your lead generation success. Number 4, low competition. While digital marketing channels are saturated with competition, direct mail presents an opportunity to stand out in a less crowded space. By leveraging this less utilized marketing channel, you can reach potential leads without facing as much competition, increasing your chances of success. Number 5, long-term relationship building. Direct mail isn't just about immediate lead generation. It's also about nurturing long-term relationships. Even if recipients don't respond to your initial mailers, consistent communication can keep your business top of mind. Over time, as their circumstances change or their needs evolve, they may be more inclined to reach out to you for assistance with their real estate needs. So, direct mail is a powerful tool for real estate investors looking to find inbound leads and grow their business. By targeting specific audiences and measuring results, you can unlock a steady stream of quality leads and position yourself for long-term success in this badass competitive real estate market. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Stewart Heath. Stewart has been a real estate investor for more than 20 years. His experience includes commercial and multifamily development, construction, management, and investing. Stewart learned many lessons on the best practices of holding and operating real estate during the financial crisis of the last decade. He now brings the wisdom he gained to the syndicated offerings brought to the market by his company, Harvard Grace Capital. I am happy to have him on the show, so welcome, Stewart Heath.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it. It's quite the honor to be here.
Why, thank you. And what do you think about direct mail?
Oh, I was actually just nodding because we're opening up a new storage facility, and it is very difficult to find somebody to help with direct mail, but I know that's what I'm going to do because storage has a market of 3 to 5 miles. And just like your point number one, it being targeted, those are my customers.
There it is.
So, and you can easily buy the lift that you need in that radius around your facility. But no, it's not very expensive. It's very direct. I think you're spot on with it. I really do.
Thank you. People roll their eyes at me. They're like, no, I do all the cold calling. I'm like, ugh, that's just like a job right there. Anyway, we're not here to talk about direct mail. We're here to talk about your badassery. And one thing that you have in common with my husband is you have an accounting degree, an accounting background, correct?
Yes, guilty. I am actually a CPA. Yes.
So you have zero personality then?
No, I have no personality. None whatsoever. So.
I am just kidding. Having that background makes you so great in this industry. So I am super thrilled to have you on here. And
thank you.
One of the things that you do that I am so afraid of is that you do syndications. Do I even say it like that? You do syndications, or do you create syndications? Okay. And I just want to start there. Let's dumb this down for Jen and I guess the audience too. But explain how syndication works, and can anybody be a part of syndicating deals, all that fun stuff. So have at it, Stewart.
Sure. So a syndication is just a big fancy word that some lawyer made up to keep other people from trying to get in on their deal. But, a syndication is just a group of people coming together as an investors to form a syndicate, and then they together move forward as the equity players in a particular deal. And usually there's somebody, there's a sponsor, which would be in our case, Harvard Grace Capital, which is our company. And sometimes they're called the originator. Most times they're called the sponsor or the GP, which is actually old terminology when we used to do these things through limited partnerships. Now we use LLCs.
And a GP is a
general partner, and then the LP would be the limited partner.
Gotcha.
We don't use partnerships anymore generally. We use limited liability companies, which is an LLC.
Well, so I have always been taught if I'm going to buy 100-unit apartment building, I'm going to be the GP, and then I have to find my LP, limited partners, to fund it and create the syndication or syndicate. I'm still confused on how to say it. So that is no longer, or you just have your company runs it through an LLC, which is a little bit different than what I was taught about raising funds for.
No, that's the same principle. I don't know that those are contradictory terms. The LLC is just the legal entity that we're bringing the investors into. So they're buying units of that LLC rather than, back before LLCs became a thing, it would have been done as a limited partnership. And
is it for one project? Like, is the LLC for one per project, or okay, you're nodding yes.
Generally, yes. The way we do it is we bring, it's a single asset entity. We create a new LLC to go buy, this asset. You have the same structure when people are doing a fund, which means that you're handing money over to a sponsor, and you say, please go buy stuff and then tell me about it later. That's what a fund is. It's a pool of money that you're giving to a group to invest on behalf of you. So we don't have a fund. We might someday, but there's a lot of simplicity in doing single asset entities.
So how exactly does Harvard Grace Corporation work? Are you the one finding properties for people to invest in and then raising the funds?
Yes, there is a team of us. In the beginning, it was kind of all me. Gee, I like that property, and I'm going to go negotiate the contract to buy that property. And then it's like, oh God, now I have a contract to buy this property, and now I got to go talk to all my friends, neighbors, and anybody that they know, and to say, hey, let's go buy this property together, and convince them that I'm the right person to run it. Yeah, so, and that's kind of the way it is in the beginning. We've now got $20 million of assets under management, 5 deals under our belt, and I signed a contract this morning on a new storage facility, and believe me, those oh God moments are still there. But but I've been prepping for this the whole time we're negotiating the contract. So you start to walk and chew gum a little bit at the same time. I'm telling my investors, hey, I'm working on this. Are you interested? And so I'll formalize their interest over the coming weeks as we're doing our due diligence under the contract. And so it's a bit of simultaneous stuff, but and as it evolves, other people find out about Harvard Grace, especially other real estate agents and brokers, and they start bringing us deals. You get out there and you do stuff, and people notice. And now, some of my favorite stuff is I drive around and I go look at deals. I look in CoStar. I don't get to do it as much as I used to, but I love just spending hours at CoStar looking at what's on the market. I have alerts set up as well, and you go by and something clicks and says, yes, that property is mine. And then you start the process to see if you can come to terms with the seller.
So you nailed it on the head, which is what scares the hell out of me, is finding that property and thinking, how am I going to fund this? And then asking everybody, anybody, and their people to believe in me, to know that this is a great deal. So I know there's a million people out there who maybe come into a bucket of cash that would like to just invest it. So as an investor, if I had, what's the minimum to buy in for your company?
Generally, our minimum is about $50,000.
Okay. And that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
So if I get $50,000, I could reach out to you. And then what's the process from there? Number one, do you allow non-accredited, or do you have to be accredited? And can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Generally, what we do, anytime you're selling a security, and that's what we're doing, the law says you must register that security. That's essentially what a public company is. However, since the 1930s, there's been an exemption to registration, and that's called Regulation D. Under Regulation D, there are, I think, 6 rules that you can use to follow that will qualify you for not registering. And we generally rely on Regulation 506C. And that's because we do an awful lot of digital marketing, an awful lot of hey, you don't know me, but, and that's called general solicitation. And so, which is now allowed. It hasn't always been allowed, but, and so we essentially advertise our deal. And when we fall under that rule, we are only allowed to take investment from accredited investors. Our last deal, because we already knew everybody who was coming in, we could have gone with Rule 506B and could have had a few unaccredited in there, but we're just so used to doing C's and running our marketing. It's just a safer place for us to be. So, what is an accredited investor? This is also defined by the SEC. And for those of us in the South, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, not the Southeastern Conference. And as of yet, the SEC, the Southeastern Conference does not rule, the financial markets. But and so the definition of credit investor is fairly straightforward. It's an individual that has made over $200,000 for the 2 preceding years, and that's generally looked at by their tax returns, or has a net worth excluding their home of $1 million. There are some other more details. If you are determining if a trust is an accredited investor or an LLC or corporation, they can all be accredited, and there are different rules, and we don't need to go there. But generally, you're looking at people who have high incomes or and are generally looped into a group called high net worth individuals. So that's what an accredited investor is.
And thank you for explaining it that well. You were talking about today that you are starting a storage unit that you purchased, but in your questionnaire that you submitted, you talk about office space. And I just came from a luncheon with my accountability group, and I was like, yeah, this guy talks about office space. I got to hear what he's saying. So what is the future of office space? Because me personally, I see, after COVID, so many people are working remotely now, and these brick and mortar places are out. That's just my personal opinion. So let's hear what you have to say about it, Stewart.
No offense.
None taken. Correct me. Please correct me.
That is way too much of a generalization.
Good. Okay.
So the first rule of real estate, Jen, is that all real estate is local. So I owned an office building, our first acquisition. Actually, I was managing this office building. We didn't buy it until January of 22. But I managed it all through the pandemic. It's what I call a suburban office building. So it's out in a suburb of Nashville. And it's filled with dentists and insurance agents and mortgage brokers and other types of service providers. And a couple of people who that's just where they want to have their office close to their home. And it was full for 3 years before the pandemic. It was full throughout the pandemic.
Really?
We actually had one vacancy, one turnover, and we filled it up in June of 2020. And it's because of where it is. And so all real estate is local.
Okay.
And there is going to be some pain in office. And when you talk about office as a asset class, you got land, you got multifamily, you got office, you got retail, you got industrial, which includes self-storage. Those are your major asset classes of real estate. Every single one of those has major subclasses. So under office, there's 4 or 5 subclasses. And the ones that we're not touching is downtown central business district assets and other, Class A properties, like a Galleria type area around Atlanta or something like that. Those are the ones that people aren't going back to. And those are the ones, but you got your average some people will call what I'm talking about a suburban office. They'll call it service retail. It's a fair description because every tenant in that building has consumer facing business. Their customers come to that office.
Okay.
Your average Class A office person, customers don't go there. That's just that was just the place that they gathered for all the employees to come to. And of course, that's what technology is disrupting.
Interesting.
Then you got the hybrids like your accounting firms and the law firms, every time I talk to my attorneys these days, their dog's barking in the background, and and they haven't been to their office in 2 weeks. But when there's a closing, sure enough, they put on the suit, and you go into the room with the 30-foot long conference table, and they still got to have that somewhere, and it's like their billing rates have gone up because, well, I've got my home office now too, so I got to pay for that. So.
Well, I appreciate you setting me straight, and that absolutely makes sense. I live in downtown Raleigh, and I do see a lot of empty spaces downtown, and they really took a hit. But you are correct. In the outer suburban areas, definitely still there and thriving. So thank you for correcting me on that. So if there's listeners out there that are accredited or have the capability of becoming accredited, what type of investment properties do you like to invest in for people to then invest with you? I know we like storage units, office buildings, any other type of buildings or investment opportunities?
Well, in addition to the suburban office, love medical office.
Okay.
That's an asset class that has had zero disruption whatsoever. Your doctor is not going remote, and he's not coming to see you. So there've been zero disruption in that particular usage of office. We are what we call asset class opportunistic. We are, as you might imagine, we're more numbers driven. We try to make every one of our deals cash flow from day one, which is another way to say that we're only buying stabilized properties.
Okay.
But we're also opportunistic. We might change that from time to time. So we're not opposed to doing multifamily. I think multifamily is probably the flagship class of all real estate. Housing is really the foundation of our entire economy, and multifamily is the foundation of commercial real estate. Storage, we like that because it's like owning multifamily without the toilets, and statistically, it correlates very well with multifamily in any area. When you see the apartments come up, you usually see the storage units start to come up, within a mile or two. And you always want enough storage units within of any kind of household units within single family and multifamily. But we will look at anything. We like to look at industrial if it's already leased. We do tend to stay away from single tenant anything. So we are not we're not running around buying the Walgreens or the post offices or the Dollar Generals or any of those kind of things that you see. And I'm not saying anything about that. It's just back in the last financial crisis, I saw it. Yeah, Dollar General just sort of says, all right, we're getting out of X number of stores.
Right.
And we're just closing them. And I knew the executive whose job it was to go close out those stores and terminate those leases. And you got to read those leases with those great big giant corporations very carefully. And then what do you do with a Dollar General?
Right.
When the Dollar General is gone, what do you do with that building? You can't put a video store in it anymore because we stream everything. Maybe it's a liquor store, but there's probably already 3 around you anyway. So I mean, it can. You're in real danger of owning, a brick and mortar that nobody wants. So.
Well, you mentioned the financial crisis, which I want to get to in a second here, but to finish off the whole syndication side of this conversation, if there is, say, I'm an accredited investor and I want to invest $50,000 with you, how do I make money as the investor?
You make money first. The way we structure our deals. So the process is you come and we go through the whole deal. We present you with the offering documents, which will consist of an offering memorandum, which tells you everything good, bad, or indifferent about the transaction itself and about the property. There will be a subscription agreement where you're signing that, I want to purchase these units. And then there's an operating agreement because you're now an owner of the LLC that will be operating. That operating agreement will designate us as the manager, and the investor as the what we call a Class A investor, essentially a limited partner. Just FYI, we always buy Class A units alongside of our investors as well. So we're wearing both hats, and so we always have our own money in the deal, and we're the ones guaranteeing the debt and in the whole like. So then how do you make money after we start? So and the way that structure works is all cash flows go 100% to Class A until they have received 100% of their investment back plus a preferred return. Usually ours have been around 8%. Others may be doing up to 10%. And that may be a reflection on how risky the deal is. And so 100% of their investment back plus that preferred return before we as the sponsors get kicked in for a dime.
Okay.
Now, we do get paid a management fee and it's a market-based management fee. Usually it's a little bit less than management. So we've got that coming in to keep the lights on and stuff like that. But out of the deal itself, the investors, the Class A, makes all the money first. So that's how they make the money.
And how long does it take for me to get my $50,000 plus 8% back?
It's completely dependent upon the deal. We usually employ a strategy where about 3 years into a property, we will have been able to increase the value through excellent management, as well as expense management, and getting the net income, the net operating income. We get that up, that's the number that the value of any commercial property is based upon. So we get that up in over 3 years. If the market conditions are right, it's like not a lot of people are refinancing today because interest rates are 8.5% and 9%. But so we cash out refi, pull that cash out, give that to the investors. Okay. The goal is you pay them out 100% so that we all are kicked in, but you give them as much as you can based upon the appraisal of the property, and you still want the property to cash flow going forward. And I want to make it clear, we're not buying out the investor. We're just sending them back. We're just making a distribution because once they've gotten their original investment and their preferred return back, then we're all in it together going forward. We've got our piece, which will be anywhere from 20 to 40%. And then the investors will be 80 to 60%. And then we go forward together with the new debt, and we operate the property. And in some cases, you're going to do that cash out refi every 4 to 5 years. And that's tax-free money. But they're my partners until they don't want to be my partners. And so we're not trying to kick them out. But to answer your question, generally 3 to 5 years it might take on a stabilized property because they tend to be rather unexciting properties. So there's not a lot of, there'll be great cash flow, like 8 to 12% cash on cash return. They're getting that along the way, but to get all of their money back, it's going to take 3 to 5 years.
Well, you explained that so well, and I always thought that you get your money back and then you're done, but you're saying they can stay in the deal, and then now it's just literally profit share. Mm-hmm. Wow,
yeah.
and
that's forever. The way we structure our deals. Other operators, they'll exercise a call option essentially and buy people out. Yeah, and it'll be fair market, but and every time there's a liquidity opportunity, there might be one or two people who want out, and that's okay. And then we buy those out, and then we distribute the rest of the cash to the rest of Class A. But we're never going to force anybody out. We actually hope people come along for the dance for 20 years until it's the natural time in the life of that asset to sell the property.
Wow. And then they also share in a big chunk when it's sold?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
Stewart, talk dirty. I love all this. You have simplified it for me. I really, really appreciate it. So let's go back to 2008, 2009. And in here, part of the suggested...
Do we have to?
Well, I think it's important because you bring that knowledge. You did not fare well, according to this here. It said you went from a 10 million net worth to negative 5 million in 90 days. Yep. But it taught you, that whole experience taught you, and that's what makes Harvard Grace such a wonderful company to work with, because you have that knowledge and will hopefully never have to go through something like that again. So 90 days you were in the hole, ended up being 5 million negative. So what happened? Yeah. This scares me.
Well, there's a lot of great quotes that came out of this period of time, and it was a very weird time in the nation. And you take all this turmoil and financial upheaval that was going on, and you match it with some pretty stupid decision making on my part. And it just didn't end well. So I'm a CPA, so I know everything right to do with money, right? So apparently not. I started buying. I bought. My first investment was a duplex. I think I bought that in 2001, and not kidding, maybe less than 6 months later, I bought a package of 14 duplexes. And so, I mean, when I get into it, I get into it big. And then over the next several years, I'd accumulated 200 units, many of those duplex units, as personal rentals, and I'm doing construction, and banks are literally chasing me around wanting to loan me money. And it's like, well, they must know something I don't know. So so I would have to go find something to buy so that I could use their money. But what I was really doing was refinancing one asset to buy the other. And you do that over and over. It's called the equity ladder, I think some people call it. And so I had very little hard cash into these deals, very little equity. And as Warren Buffett said, when sort of the merry-go-round stopped, says, now we're going to find out who's been swimming without their trunks on.
I knew that was the quote you're getting to.
Of course. I mean, it was so spot on. And that's exactly what happened. The tide stopped. The tide went out, and it didn't come back. And that was 2008. I mean, some of the largest financial organizations in the world crashed in 2008, Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. And I'm going along, hey, what's going on? Yeah, this is great. I'm in the middle of rehabbing some condos, and people are talking, well, what's going on? The world's coming in. There's a presidential election going on in 2008, you might recall, and President Obama and what's the guy's name from Arizona? He was his Republican opponent. And, July of, I might be mixing up my years, but there was the financial crisis, and the Republican candidates said, hey, they're both senators at the time. Hey, let's go back to Washington and let's put our arms together and let's fix this financial crisis. And Barack Obama stayed on the campaign train. Yeah, see ya. Yeah, y'all have fun. So, how I got to those numbers I did a personal financial statement as of June 30th of 2008 from all of my holdings, based upon appraisals, no funny business. and my net worth was about $10 million. And it was all hard assets, no liquid assets, and then debt. And what happened from June 30th of '08 to September 30th of '08 was the world stopped. And suddenly lines of credit were pulled in, and just didn't matter if you were current or terms, or it was just the banks just did what banks do and can do when they get scared, and they all got scared because the Fed was doing that to the banks. So they had to turn around and pull back credit that they had offered, and they swept cash accounts. I was managing properties for other people, and so they swept my trust account and paid off my personal line of credit. And it's like, if I had done that, I'd be arrested for theft. But it happened, and you can sit around and fight about it. But tomorrow you've got other obligations to meet. So it was not a fun time. And you pretty much lost everything that I had. But I've gone back and done a bit of a post-mortem on that. And I had some great assets, and they're still great assets for somebody else. But had I had reserves of as little as $250,000, $300,000, which is a pretty small amount of cash in the grand scheme of things, I could have survived 12, 18 months. Nobody needed to survive 18 months because the world began to loosen back up after about 6 months. Had I just had reserves, we could have survived anything. And some of those assets I would still like to have today. But I was running, and as an accountant, I knew this, but I also knew that it was never going to end. That roller coaster was always going to go up, but it didn't. So that's my big lesson. You referred to it as wisdom earlier. Yeah, it's the same kind of wisdom that a child gets when they touch a hot stove. So it's more of a, oh, I shouldn't do that again. I don't like putting the word wisdom to it, but just the importance of preparing for the unknown, because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And every time we build a deal, we've got 12 months of reserves, built into that. 12 months of the debt payments in there. You don't need 12 months of the entire operating cost in there. That would be probably excessive, but that's the way we calculate it, 12 months of the first mortgage payment. And it just sits there. The banks love us because we have lots of cash that just sit there. And sometime last year, they started, I guess we should pay you something on that. I said, yeah, I guess you should. And what does that do? Well, it actually hurts our reported return on investment numbers that we like to put out to the public, but so be it. It hurts your IRRs or the return on investment, the ROIs, however any sponsor wants to report their success stories. And why does it hurt that? It's because that's money that's sitting there and it's not generating income. It's generating a little interest income, so it's not as bad as it was, but that's okay. We're not losing sleep at night wondering what happens if half the tenants move out overnight. We'll have 12 months to figure that out. So,
well,
anyway, I've talked for a long time now.
No, so. I just think it's so important. And by the way, it's John McCain. I was like, I love him.
Thank you.
Yes. Like, why could I not remember that? He picked an awful running mate, but John McCain, good human. But I wanted you to tell that story so that the listeners, if they are thinking of investing with you, they know you are taking those precautions and that you are not going to be in a situation like that. So I do appreciate you telling that. That was a really tough story to tell. And, I know that feeling of losing sleep and wondering, where the next bit of money is going to be coming in. And it's scary running a business like that. So I do appreciate you telling that. Stewart, to wrap up this first part of the podcast here, I had asked you, or you heard, excuse me, I didn't ask you. You heard me at the beginning of the podcast give a badassery bestowment. So you give great advice. So do you have a badassery bestowment that you can share with my audience members?
I would say that cash flowing real estate is boring, and boring is beautiful. So that is my that's my
love
contribution
that
for the day.
Yes, mailbox money is a beautiful thing. So thank you, Stewart. All right, we're going to move to the second part of the podcast here, which is what makes Stewart a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What is a book that made a huge difference in your life?
It's fairly recent. I am you already know I'm CPA. I'm an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of things about us entrepreneurs that are kind of comical. Most of us have ADD, but part of that is we want to do everything. We think we can do it all. And so the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan is all about you need to know who's going to do that task and not you, and you don't necessarily know how to do the task. And it's so empowering. I mean, I'm an accountant. I'm not a marketer. Thank God. And I mean, I know about digital marketing and I know a lot of the terminology, but I don't know how to do it. And I've got people that do. And again, it's so empowering and to know how to use these different things in business and to direct other people to be able to do them. It's brilliant.
It is. And the who can do it 10 times better, 100 times better than you trying to figure it out on your own. So I really enjoyed that book, made a huge difference to me as well.
Yeah. Most entrepreneurs have never really discovered or understood the Industrial Revolution at the turn of the last century, which was all about division of labor, and Dan Sullivan just sort of brought it down to us to an entrepreneur's level. So
fair, well said. I agree 1,000%. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I may have already said that. Advice I have received. You've got to get into the game. And this comes from a mentor of mine who's no longer with us, but I was a young CPA and I was having lunch with this guy during tax season, and I was just whining about, working so hard and making good money, but I wasn't building anything of value and sounding like one of my kids do today. And he just looked at me and said, you got to get into the game. You're not doing anything. And that was actually what, that was the kick in the butt, the impetus to start investing in real estate, at that time. So that was back in 2000 when he said that to me. Wow. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, I was not building my CPA practice to be a business, to be an asset, to be sold. Sometimes people do that. I had zero interest in that. And so, you got to get in the game. And maybe that's investing in the stock market for some people. Maybe that's buying your first rental property. But whatever it is, you got to get into the game.
It's called taking massive action and just doing it.
It does. It
is.
Yes.
Stewart, thank you for that. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
Honestly, I've just sort of told you, about the worst years of my life. And I think there is drive there to, I need to get back to where I was. and which is kind of a misnomer because it was all a house of cards, so to speak. So there's I'm just want to be successful anyway, just the way I'm wired. There's a certain amount of competition and winning, but I'm 60 years old now. I'm really much more focused on leaving legacies, not just financial, for my 8 kids. And so I have goals of how much I want to leave for each of them. And which is why I'll be working until I'm 93. But, it's a legacy in that it's not just about money. Because if you look at what most second generations do with first generation's money is they sell it and blow it.
Yep.
And if the second generation do it, the third generation absolutely did.
Right.
So it's about giving them the opportunity to perhaps not have to work so hard and getting them so that they can actually pursue the things, hopefully productive things that they're truly passionate about. So
8 kids. Oh my goodness. I am a former middle school teacher, so I'm allergic to children, but goodness gracious. Thanks for reminding me to take my birth control. I appreciate that.
Yeah, right.
All right, moving on. The first A in Badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Our big goal for Harvard Grace Capital is we're currently at 22 million of assets under management. We want to be at 100 million assets under management by the end of 2026.
Whew, that is a big goal. Excellent. So listeners, start reaching out and start investing with this company because Stewart, you definitely have the background, the knowledge to make sure it is successful. All right. The first S in Badass is for systems. As a CPA, I'm sure you have some systems. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
I can't do anything without technology. I just love it when the young people that I work with is like, oh, you're really good with this internet stuff, much more than anybody else your age. I just love that part. Like, I've sort of been the IT guy in any organization that I've been in, and hopefully that's diminished in the last 10 years. But leveraging the technology is a big piece, and technology in property, and especially property management, is huge. One of them that we use a technology, a platform called Asana.
Oh, yes.
Which is just a project management team. I've used it back across many companies, and it just helps me easily manage tasks. Each of our properties gets its own project, and we put all the recurring tasks in there. And so I love that one. That's sort of the operating system of our organization. But we rely heavily upon Microsoft tools and Teams internally, just for comms and hey, did you see so and so was late on their rent again? Those are the kind of communications we don't want out in email. We use technology for our deal platforms. We use one called Invest Next. As seems to be the case over and over again, an investor will come there and create an account, and that's where they will transact all of their business with us. They might already have an Invest Next account with other sponsors, and then they can just add our deal into their portfolio. And so they have their whole thing. And then we can handle all of our communications, our monthly updates, our special updates when we send out K1s for tax time. It all goes out through that system.
Interesting.
So those are the 3 big platforms we're using.
Very good. Well, I have one more to go. The final S to wrap up this podcast is for success. What does success mean to Stewart Heath?
Success means that I am sufficiently stable myself that I'm able to, give back, not just to my kids, like I talked about before, but, I'm a very charitable person. I like writing big checks to organizations that I think are doing great stuff. I'm pretty partial to a ministry that's in crisis intervention for teens and young adults, and they're near and dear to me. And to me, that's what success is. Just being able to do that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I did not think I could like you anymore, Stewart. I just love that you do that. That is fantastic. And I appreciate you so much. How do the listeners find you if they want to invest with Harvard Grace?
Easiest way to go is stewartheath.com. And that will take you to our website. Or if you prefer, you can go to harvardgrace.com. So just as it sounds. And I do invite everybody, because you can find contact information, even my Calendly link, that you can book some time with me. I will talk real estate almost at any time of day or night. And so grab some time with me and let's chat. If you just got a deal that you're looking on, you want me to give you an opinion, you'll get the opinion. So, and let's start a relationship. Let's just start talking. We do have free resources out there as well about all kinds of stuff. So which you're welcome to have just for the downloading. So.
Will you partner with people if maybe they come across a property that maybe they are too afraid, like me, to try to raise the funds myself? Would you partner with people?
Possibly.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I
just throwing that out
never
there.
say no. Never say no. We will consider anything. And sometimes it might be a no for now because we got too much on our plate. Otherwise, it might be hell no, because because it's an office building in downtown Nashville. So but again, we'll get the time and we'll look at anything because we are asset class opportunistic. So we're not just strictly one kind of asset class.
Well, thank you for being so thorough in your explanations and really just presenting this in a different light, especially for me. I do truly appreciate it. So, Stewart, thank you so much for being on today's show.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Really enjoyed it.
Good. Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Now, go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.